Hey everyone, welcome to the Writeup for Cloud at Your Service. So this is a challenge to do with cloud technologies and specific GCP. And yeah, so we're given an AppSpot URL and a service account key, Corey.json. So if we navigate to this AppSpot URL, the at your service chow.r.appspot, we're given flag retriever, and it says you start where you end. All you need to do is put in the right password, and I'll give you the flag. So if we put in something random like this and hit enter, it takes a few seconds, and then we get bad password. So obviously we just need to get the right password. This is not a web challenge, so it's not actually exploiting this web. It's exploiting the cloud. So we've also got the service account key. So what to interact with that, we're going to use GCP CLI tools. So we're going to need to install gcloud. So you can just go look up install gcloud, and you can follow this documentation of how to install the Google Cloud SDK. So essentially how to interact with GCP using this service account. So you can follow these instructions for whatever you're working this on. So I've already got this installed. And there's Corey.json there, so we can just activate it. So what that does is just kind of links up gcloud with this service account, so it kind of sets it all up. And then if we do a gcloud config list, we should see two things. One, that we are now whatever service account this is, which is Corey Worthington. And the project is at your service chow. You can double check all this by just having a look at this, and you can see that the service account is, where is it? Here, that's the client email, and then the project ID is at your service chow. So that's all in the service account key. Cool. So what do we do to start? So the first thing we want to do is maybe just have a quick look around. So usually there's buckets involved. So I'm going to run gsutil, which is we're just going to have an ls, which will just list all the buckets that if we have access to it, because we don't know what access this user has. This is a bit of a guess in itself, to be honest, but it's also not necessary. It gives a bit of context. So there's 5 buckets here. We've got at your service chow.appspot.com, blah, 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 blah. We've also got App Engine source. Now, if you've used App Engine before, you'll know that these 5 buckets are default buckets that are created with App Engine. But if you try to look in them, you won't be able to get anything anyway, so it doesn't matter. This one, however, is interesting. Let's see if we can have a look in here. So we're going to do gsutil ls gs app engine source. So this is listing all the objects within this bucket. And within it, we see, come on. There's 4 objects. We've got index.js, packet.doc, blah, 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 and static. So that looks really promising. If we can grab the index.js, we can solve the challenge. So let's do gsutil copy gs app engine source index.js to here. So if we do that, we're essentially trying to read the object and then put it back here. This will take a while, but unfortunately we will get a permission denied error like that. So we need to find a way around it. Now the challenge and the challenge hints were pointing towards enumeration. So a lot of people got buckets, like, interacting with buckets initially. Maybe some people didn't, but what I was trying to hint towards is looking at other bits of cloud that could be useful. And doing a little bit of Googling, you can look up GCP enumeration scripts. And so you get bucket brute. There's all these ones. The one that I found in making this challenge was the GCP Red Team GitLab script. That's just done through Googling, and they have this awesome page on privilege escalation and post exploitation tactics in GCP. So you can read through all this, and this is basically saying what to look for and all this kind of stuff. But right down the end, there is a awesome where is it? Here we go. There's an automated script that does all this for you. So if we jump here, and let's go here, and we'll get the raw We'll grab it, and I'm just going to make a temp. I already have temp directory. Make temp2. And I'm just going to grab this. So now we've got the GCP enum, and we're just going to run it. So what this will do, it analyzes your G-Cloud configuration, so the one that we've set up with Corey Worthington and the At Your Service Challenge, and it goes through every single cloud product essentially and checks what permissions you have. Can you read? Can you write? Can you, what are there? What buckets are there? And all this kind of stuff. This does take a little while to run, so I'll cut this and then put it together. But what will happen is, I'm going to cut it here. Stop recording. Okay, we're back about 10 minutes later. So after this enumeration is done, by the way, this is not the only enumeration script that you can use. I'm sure there's plenty others out there. This is just the one that I used. So going down here, you'll see there's a lot of fail, some fail because it needs to activate the API because it hasn't been activated in the project yet. Fail. Boom. Cloud Functions info success. So that's something we want to keep a lookout for. Fail. We also see Kubernetes info success. Don't know what that is. It's actually not part of the challenge. I think that's a bug with the script. But anyway, and then also enumerating storage buckets. So we can see that we could ls on the storage buckets. So we've seen that before. But if you didn't get that initially, you could work that out from here. So the important thing is Cloud Functions. What is Cloud Function? So with this script, there's actually an output. So let's have a look. We have so functions, cloud functions.json. So let's have a look at this, and we can see. Look at this. We've got a cloud function here. We just got the one, it looks like. There's entry point, there's a trigger for it. It's called Professional Signer. You can tell by the end of the name there. How it was deployed, all this kind of stuff. The service account that uses that is used to run it, where the source is. So maybe we can try and access this. Unfortunately, we can't, and all this kind of stuff. So that's awesome. Let's see if we can access this. So let's go ahead and try and run this. So we're going to get a Postman tab up. I'm just going to hit get and run it. See what happens. We get a 403 forbidden. That's no good. So potentially our service account, the Corey Worthington account, may have access to it. So let's use the access token. So we do gcloud auth print. I think is it access or is it identity? I think it's identity. So we're going to do print identity token. So identity token is a JWT, and a access token is a OAuth 2 token. So there's two different types of tokens. So we're just going to wait for this to come back. So this is the JWT here. We're going to copy that, and we're going to put this in our authorization. It's going to be a bearer token. All of this documentation is available online. I'm just kind of speeding through this a little bit. So we hit send, and we get a different request. So we are actually authenticated to execute this function, except we're missing the query parameters. It doesn't tell us which query parameters we need. It just says we're missing query parameters. So how do we work this out? You could try and brute force it. You could blah, 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 blah. There's a much smarter way to do this. I think this is where a lot of people got stuck on. We need to get access to the source code of the cloud function. Now, in gcloud, there is no way you can do that directly through gcloud. However, if we look up get source code cloud function, let's see what happens. You can have a look through here. It might just be a little bit hard. Is there anything? No, not really. Looking in gcloud, you wouldn't see anything. However, if we looked at the function, I look up cloud functions API. We're going to have a look in here, and we have v1 operations.locations.functions.generate download URL. Now this isn't available in gcloud. This is only available through the API. So the way this works is it will generate a download URL for the source code, and if we have access to do that, it'll work. Spoiler alert, it does. And the way gcloud for some reason doesn't have this, and this is where a lot of people got stuck on, is that they didn't explore other options around the API itself. So let's have a look at this. You post to this function. So given that the name is locations, location ID, functions, function ID. So location ID you can get from the description, like when we describe the cloud function, it's Australia Southeast 1, and the function ID is professional signer. So again, we need to then go over here. So we have our this is the, it's probably a bit small for you guys, but reading it, you've got it all set up. That's the URL. And then we also need the authorization, but this time we need the OAuth2 authorization. Again, reading through docs would get you that. So we can do a gcloud auth print access token. And this will come up with a OAuth2 token that we can pass in. Like that, hit send, and we get the download URL for the cloud function. So let's have a look at what this is. So I'm just downloading it on another screen. Here we go. So we got index.js. We got, this is fantastic. Bad. Sure. So we have a look through this, and we'll find out that check if parameters exist, B and O. Okay, we now know what the parameters it requires, B and O. And B is bucket and O is object. And what is it doing? It is getting a signed URL for that bucket and object. So bringing it back to the initial problem, which is to get that App Engine source. Remember, we don't have access to get the App Engine source in the index.js in the App Engine source bucket. So straight away, I'm going to go and try to get it. So over here, I am now again calling the cloud function with the authorization of the access token, with the B bucket set to App Engine source and the O set to index.js. Now, why this works? Oh, unauthorized because the token's probably expired. gcloud auth print identity token. Why this works is because the service account running the cloud function has read access to the bucket, whereas our Corey Worthington account only has list access. So we get this, we pop it in, send, and we get these. Okay, we get the sign URL with the index.js. We can just click that in Postman and hit send, because sign URLs don't require any authentication. We have the index.js here. Look at this. And then we go down, if request.buddy.password equals this URL. So let's copy that. Then we can send the flag. Then heading back over to our App Engine, we can pop the password in. And there's the flag. The YouTube URL is also an amazing song. Our Braithwaite the horses. Anyway, hope you learned something when you were trying to solve this challenge. Yeah, bye.